Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock. Amy, if you can do roll call.
Good evening, Commissioner Admin,
Here.
Commissioner Pratt,
Present.
Commissioner Byers,
Present.
Commissioner Webster,
Here.
Commissioner Woolham,
Here.
Chief Cowan,
Here.
Legal Counsel Matt Paxton, and I'm Board Secretary Amy Oakley.
So next we're gonna move on to public comment. If there's anybody did anyone email in a public comment?
No.
No, okay, so did you guys have something to say? No, okay. Okay, so I know that oh, sorry, Mr. Marin, if you want to go ahead.
I'll unmute. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I have a few comments. First of all, regarding Station 51 outbuildings, I urge the board to develop an agreement with all the participating parties to assure that the King County Fire District is fairly reimbursed for the expenses of this project. The cost should include the construction, building purchase costs, land value used that belongs to North Shore Fire Department for the project, and ongoing expenses, including contributions to the Building Reserve Fund. I suggest this contract be drafted and signed by all parties, assuring that the parties contribute their fair share to the project. Remember, RCW 4309210 subsection 3 states all services rendered by or property transferred from one department to another public improvement undertaking institution or public service industry to another shall be paid for at its true and full value by the department public improvement undertaking institution or public service industry receiving the same, and no department public improvement undertaking institution or public service industry shall benefit in any financial matter whatever by appropriation of funds made for the support of another. Second, regarding the proposal to continue the day shift battalion position in the 2024 budget, I'd remind the board that during the King County Fire District 16 negotiation with Shoreline Fire Department for the contract for services, Chief Cowan vowed to reduce the battalion chief positions from 8 to 4. It's been a year and a half and this promise is still unrealized. The battalion chief reductions represents a significant cost savings for the citizens. This promise should be kept. At your last meeting, the fire chief stated that the only downside in keeping the day shift battalion chief was the cost. During contract negotiation, all parties focused on improving tangible service levels. I heard no discussion of service improvements to the citizens. I don't believe there are any. The Shoreline Fire Department, according to the August 2022 org chart, already has a deputy fire chief who supervises just 6 reports, including another deputy chief as a day position. Doesn't seem to be a value to the citizens. I appreciate your consideration of these suggestions.
Thank you, Mr. Marin. And Union President Doug Lozier, I see your hand up if you wanted to speak next.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Again, I'm Doug Lozier. I'm the Union President for IFF Local 1760. I represent all shoreline firefighters, whether that they came from North Shore originally or Shoreline. We're all one big happy family in the union side of things. I did want to speak to you about 2 different things today. The first thing was actually about the day shift battalion chief, which is, almost kind of like a half-time battalion chief in a way. And, we went into this merger and everything like that, or a contract for service, looking to, have as many efficiencies as possible and stuff. And, not everything can be clearly black and white from the beginning and realized 100%. This day shift battalion chief position will allow to take over a lot more of the paperwork and processing that the battalion chief was normally going to have to do. So he's not overwhelmed, or she's not overwhelmed by doing all that paperwork and not being able to actually interact with the crews and do a lot of the daily things in which a battalion chief would need to do to actually provide a good service to not only the employees but also the public. there's actually an additional benefit is for this day shift battalion chief is that they're going to be stationed at Station 51, at least that's the plan right now. So therefore, it would actually create a better service coverage to the Legacy North Shore area. So it's, in my opinion, is a great benefit to the citizens of the North Shore area. So I'm kind of excited for both the employees as well as for the citizens. It's what I would want if, you know, I live in Shoreline, it would be what I would want if the situation was reversed. The other thing I want to talk about real quick, it was talked about when Station 54 was originally being talked about. This is not in favor of Station 54 or against it. It's just a piece of information. It was talked about that when, you know, everything goes crazy, you know, when all the calls start coming out all at the same time, that, you know, all the different departments work together to, you know, share their resources and stuff like that. And in reality, what ends up happening is it's called like a resource emergency. And at that point, all the different departments equivalently put up their border walls and only handle their calls within their department because they're so strapped on time and resources to only be able to, they are not even able to handle their own calls. So when you're looking at Station 54, it's just something to take into consideration. I'm not saying that we need it, Station 54 for that purpose. Just wanted to make sure that that was clear, that if all you know goes crazy, we're not going to have those other resources from other departments to respond to that area. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other people wanted to do a public comment? You can raise your hand on the screen. Okay, I don't see any. So if we want to go on to the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Is everyone in favor? Say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Board discussion and possible action items. The subcommittee report on Station 54.
Chief got some information
Sure.
the other day, so.
We've met and talked about what we need to do to evaluate what the future looks like at that station, and there's a few things that we need to do some sooner than later. We do have a drainage issue that we don't know if it's coming from our property or a next door property. So we're pursuing getting a survey to get our property lines marked clearly, so we can figure out where, you know, whose responsibility it is. The other piece is that we're contracting for a soil analysis, you know, which will give us some feasibility options for the future if we ever decide to do something. But it's a good idea now to figure out what that looks like, especially as it goes towards the potential footprint of a fire station, if that's what we chose to do, especially with what we would have to have with retainage and all of that, and then also the slope that's behind the station and an analysis of that. It's not a huge slope, but it is a slope. And so that came in under the forecasted or estimated numbers. So I've initiated that contract. It's at $7,800. So
that was a 2 months out.
yeah, well, yeah, because some of it they got to do the perk and they got to, you know, and all that. But he estimated about 2 months, you know, to do that. So again, this is mostly just getting the information, so we can have an educated picture of what we can or cannot do on that property and our options, you know, moving forward.
Okay, subcommittee report on Station 51 outbuilding.
So where we're at is the company that we had our initial estimate from, the steel structures, HCI, they are on MRSC. So we are now soliciting and making sure that we get at least 3 quotes of the specific details of what we're looking at doing. So I can bring back some better, well, I shouldn't say better numbers, more confident in the more accuracy of the numbers for the board to consider for moving forward with the outbuilding. Part of that project also is to do a carport along the south side of the drill grounds, and hoping to put some solar on the top of it too to claim some of the energy and so forth, not only for any of the carport, but also back onto the grid. So I don't have much more to tell you except that it's been out there and we're waiting for bids, and I don't have anything back yet.
And I know that we've had a question from the citizens about how this would be funded. Can you briefly touch on that again?
So this would be funded from the North Shore Capital Reserves. And then reimbursed back to the North Shore Capital Reserves through reimbursements when being used for other activities that are outside the scope of what the Shoreline Fire Department is doing and or the consortium. In the consortium, there is money that is being paid into Station 51 and the tower for repairs and maintenance and so forth. And we're also billing in the academies on a per capita basis, to pay for this future building. And it's we have to figure out exactly what that formula should be, but I've estimated at 50% of the total cost over the next 15 years, I believe. 15 or 20 years, I can't remember off the top of my head, but that is something that we still need to refine to make sure that everybody feels comfortable with it. This will be an asset to our operations outside of the consortium, outside of regional training. This will help protect our apparatus. We'll be able to use it for our own training, especially when there's inclement weather. Instead of impacting this room itself, there will be what we call a dirty classroom. It won't be as refined as this, but it's a classroom that can be taught on some of the drills. We're going to have some props that will be built into it, like a confined space or rescue out of a window kind of prop. And so it'll be used for those types of things and relieve pressure off this facility, this headquarters facility, and the training tower to some extent, but not as much on the training tower, but mostly off of this facility. I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
We said the consortium will reimburse 50% over 15 years of the cost of the new buildings, or
the academies.
the academies.
This is a good question because there's two pieces to this. The consortium already pays for wear and tear maintenance repair work for Station 51 and the tower, the training building, and that would be included into the outbuilding as well. But specifically the academies that are coming, because this is going to be when we have an academy here, then we're hoping that we're hoping that they're not using this room as much as they are, and be able to go to that building and be able to use it. So I'm applying right now 50%, and I can't remember if it's 15 or 20 years because I played with both, so off the top of my head, and to get reimbursed on a per capita basis, so that at the end it's still our building and it's still going to be used predominantly for our stuff, but it will be a better asset for us as we look in removing some of the pressure off this facility, off our people, off the equipment and so forth, especially for academies. So I felt it was appropriate to bill for part of the cost. I don't believe it's anywhere near appropriate to bill for the entire thing, because it's still our asset, it's still our building, it's still going to be used predominantly for our stuff. So I don't think it's appropriate to bill it at 100%. What that formula looks like, we still need to refine with that so that everybody feels comfortable with it. But I needed to start someplace because we have an academy that's coming through right now, and I didn't want to miss that opportunity with the current academy.
The other question I have, the carport, that's for the fire department, right? It's
That's
not-
specifically for us, and that's
to
to
get
help
our
protect our
vehicles.
vehicles.
Yeah,
Yes.
that we've been just parking out and
Right.
lot open, okay. So
Yeah,
not part of the
that is
consortium.
not hard. That would not be recovered in the building. That would not be appropriate to
No,
recover any of that.
That's strictly the
Yes,
North Shore.
correct.
Okay.
It's getting our staff cars out.
Correct.
But I wanted to bring that up because of, that's a cost that won't be.
I actually look at it too as a possibility of like when inclement weather, if they're done with an evolution at the training building and there's a few stalls that are open, they could come under cover if it's raining or something like that to do a review of the drill or whatever, or briefing on the drill to go forward. So it's actually I think it'll be used, for more than just a carport, but it's gonna be specifically for us.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
So just to summarize, I'm waiting for bids to come back so I can give you a better complete package, of what that looks like. So then we can make a more informed decision.
And
Was a member of MRSC that you mentioned at the,
HCI, which is the company that we reached out to initially because they're kind of, well, they're local, they're somewhat local and. Excuse me, they seem to be one of the better manufacturers of these things. I shouldn't say better, they're one of the manufacturers that's locally that does this type of work. And so we reached out to them just to get an understanding, a general ballpark scope of what this would look like and a cost so that I could start this conversation with you all. Now we're going back and saying, okay, now we really want this. And we're asking for 3 proposals or bids from the different companies. And we are using MRSC, so that does not, it does not make us it doesn't require us to go out for formalized bids. We can use MRSC because they're already vetted through the state.
are we treating the carport as a separate project?
Yes, and we expect that
It'll
the
be at the same time, but as a
same
separate,
company, similar time depending on,
but we break it out as a separate contract.
yes, it'll need to be because it cannot be
MRC,
included in the same
okay.
thing.
Great. It's not gonna be-
Because that, whatever that package is for that outbuilding, I'm gonna be trying to capture that whole scope.
Okay, and we had one other part of that project was the a temporary outhouse or
That's coming.
where are we at on that? Is it, because that would be
I
used right
don't-
away.
Yeah, I think it's en route. It's being shipped. Anders, Chief Hochstein is on, we can ask Chief, he may have an update that I don't have.
The question on that was, do we have to get power over there? For that?
We will need some power over there for that as well. So, but it is on trailer, so if for some reason we decide to not do this at all, we could move that to someplace else where there is power. But our plan is to run a conduit on the north wall and then out to the corner and come and then hook into the trailer. And so,
Uh-oh.
okay, so even if we didn't do the full building, I guess we could still run the power to that location, it'd just be less amps. We wouldn't, I think it's on, it's not much amps, it's like a 20 or 30 amp service.
It wouldn't be us to run the bigger conduit that we know we're gonna need for.
Yeah,
the-
I mean, I would, if we run a conduit, I mean, the difference between, that's
Yeah, it's
minuscule in the whole scheme of things.
It is, okay.
So, it's been a crazy 3 weeks for me, so I'm not sure if something happened this last week, but I know that PSE was gonna come out and do an evaluation in the northeast corner there, where the power comes in.
Right.
To see what kind of capacity we had in the box, because that's far cheaper to run the conduit along the corner there than it is to home run it into the building itself
Right.
here. And then trying to figure out how to get out to that site.
Sounds good, okay.
Hey, Chief, this is Matt Hochstein. PSC meeting is this Friday.
Oh, okay.
And bathroom trailer is scheduled to arrive the last week of October.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Holstein.
Chief, is the bathroom trailers for the academy that's currently running and the. academy?
It's for actually for all of our personnel, but it'll be very helpful in the academy, relieving pressure off these bathrooms, and again, using this long-term, using this building. But it'll also be used just even without the outbuilding, people that are out training on the drill ground, especially if they're dirty, they could go and use that if it's all vinyled and everything, and you just spray it down and mop it, and it would be it'd be clean instead of tracking dirt, mud, whatever, and everything else into here.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to discussion on the day shift BC program.
So I provided a briefing to a month and a half ago-ish, before our last meeting, detailing some of the pros and cons, the discussions, and Mr. Marin is absolutely correct. We discussed, dropping all the way down to one operational BC, which we are at one operational BC aside from DBC currently. But in that proposal, in the contract, I also detailed that we would reevaluate as we were going on to make sure that we weren't making a poor decision about what is affecting levels of service and so forth, and balancing what those needs are. My proposal is to extend the DBC program for 2024 and reevaluate again in 2024, depending on what our neighboring departments are doing, especially as it comes to battalion chiefs.
Can you explain? Oh my gosh,
Bob,
you just.
DVC?
Yes, thank you.
oh, sorry, day shift BC, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, I separated out BC from DVC so that so it's easier to say.
Okay. that's fine.
Bothell is in the process right now of evaluating whether or not they're gonna stay standalone or if they're gonna regionalize. If they end up standalone, then, battalion 142 will still be in service. If they regionalize, it depends on who they regionalize with as to what happens with battalion 142, depending. Again, it's not our decision. It has, they'll make a decision that's based off the best needs of the department at that point. And I don't like necessarily making decisions based off of what other departments are doing, but it would be foolish for us not to consider what's going on around us when we consider where is that next battalion chief coming from. Currently, Kenmore is getting, if battalion 161 and 142 are both in service, battalion 142 is beating battalion 161 into Kenmore, probably, I haven't marked it, but towards the west side of Kenmore, somewhere in that neighborhood is about where they both meet. So on a critical call, they're both battalion 161 and 142 are both coming, because on a critical call, it's going to require, like a big structure fire or a major car wreck or something like that, where you need multiple battalion chiefs, for command and control. They are coming, and sometimes they're taking the calls, especially when battalion 161 is out of service. And battalion 151 for that matter, because right now we still have a battalion 151. I've already moved battalion 151 down to station 51. So that it's, even if it's not approved for 2024 for the remainder of this year, that there's a better asset for this area. We've just recognized that we're not getting as much of the coverage as we needed. The other reason why I'm asking for 2024 as well is that we still have a lot of policy work and a lot of other things that, we just have not had the bandwidth and the capacity to get our policies aligned. There are some great policies in Legacy North Shore and Shoreline, and some of those need to be combined. Some of them need to be updated. Some of them just, we have redundancy and so forth. Well, a good example is the financial policy, for example. Where we, adopted, we took some of the elements that were in the North Shore policy and merged it with the Shoreline policy, and we needed to get that done for obvious reasons. So we need to do that for all of our policies. We need to look at them, and some need to go away because some of them are redundant. Some need to be updated. Some just need to be put into a new format, and so forth. So I'm going to be looking to the DVC program to be helping with a lot of that policy work. And what was mentioned by President Lozier with we use vector solutions for our staffing. It takes hours every day, to manage that. And so that, the work that the DVC is doing allows the battalion chief to get out there and actually get out with the crews and mentor and coach and review and evaluate, and on top of doing calls and so forth. So again, there's a lot of benefits. We can talk, about all the benefits, and Mr. Mayor is absolutely right too, that the other on the other side is the money savings. And that money can either be reinvested in other levels of, other things to improve on, relief back to the taxpayers. I mean, we can use it for a number of different things. But I've been very consistent with my approach of making sure that we're maintaining or improving levels of service across all of the whole area. And and this would impact the levels of service, here in a positive way, keep them here, beyond the end of the year. I don't know what next year is going to look like. I don't know what Bothell is going to look like. And so that's why I'm just, let's see how things play out and make sure that we're still making good decisions. But right now we're getting coverage from battalion 142 on at least some of the calls. And I don't know if that's necessarily in our best interest. Nothing against battalion 142. They're totally fine. Bothell's totally fine. It's just, it's our jurisdiction.
But day shift BC is 7 days a week.
7 days a week. So
that's two BC, two bodies.
Right, two bodies set, so they do 12-hour or 11. It's about 12-hour days, and 7 days a week. They go AB, CD, CD, for our 4 shifts, so that we get 7-day-a-week coverage. Long term, even if depending on how things go, it might be nice to have a DVC even one during the work week, to help out with projects and stuff like that. We're also assigning the other projects to that day shift, I should say day shift PC, so it doesn't. To the day shift PC position to help out with site like purchases and, coordination of movement of equipment and things of that nature.
Well, I reviewed our contract with Shoreline. And this was on a section that we had in there, and it did say that we would make an effort to cut it back down to the 4 BC or 1 BC full time. But I believe that we should keep it for 2024 and keep it for review by the end of next year.
And is this something that's coming completely out of the North Shore budget, or is this something that?
Oh, it's a
was
shared-
shared?
it's a shared-
Okay. So
shared
the
cost.
cost is
The cost
whatever.
450.
So the foreign, I think I estimated about 410,000 in salary.
Okay,
So the 410,000, it would not be 410,000 of North Shore
Okay.
savings. It would actually be more savings on the Shoreline side because of the proportions of the battalion, of the operational percentages.
okay,
So, but there would still be savings to the impact on the North Shore
okay.
budget.
Yeah.
I haven't done the calculation.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's not 205 to 205, it's probably, I don't know, 130 to 270, 280 or whatever, something like that.
Did I see that Shoreline has put out a request for bids for BC?
We are asking for interest in the BC position, and because we're also looking at replacing our deputy chief of operations, Mark Foster. He's retiring. Physically, he'll be here till about the end of next May. So at our retreat, we discussed the timing of replacing his position, and we felt that sooner was better, of at least identifying who it was and the potential trickle down of, because I mean, it could, and I believe that we will have an internal candidate fill this position, but a deputy chief could it could be a division chief moving to deputy chief and a battalion chief moving to division chief and a captain to, all the way down. And so we felt that it was better to do it sooner than later, to start an informal transition and then do a formal hard transition for the last 2 months leading up to his leaving. The informal would be just shadowing when that person could. And depends on who's filling that position, whether they're on day shift now or on 24-hour shift, to try and make sure that, we get good transition. We're behind because of the promotional process and everything else. We're behind in getting people promoted and all that, and time for vacation picks and all that, which thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Being here. And being able to get our vacation picks, because it's all supposed to happen like on October 15th, and that's not going to happen. So we're trying to get some of these things in front load, ahead of the decision points.
So any more discussion on the day shift BC?
Just so if you guys don't do a day shift BC, are you gonna be looking for another administrative staff to cover that extra workload that's not getting covered now?
It's a great question. I haven't been hoping that this happens, so
Yeah.
I have not figured that out, but I will share with you that one of the biggest themes that came, and I'm in the process of doing a after action report on the retreat with not only the topics here discussed, our action items, a report card from how we did from last year's retreat, this year, what we're going to be focusing on for next year and all that. But I will share that one of our biggest themes is that our staff is just overloaded on our work. We have no capacity, and we're not being as strategic as we want or should be. And so for example, if we're not doing the DBC program, the work that they're doing, the policy work, it's some of the, aside from operations, from responding on calls and so forth, but the work that for Vector Solutions, that staffing, that would fall back to the battalion chief, or maybe we could share it somehow, with division chiefs and so forth, but that becomes an issue with job descriptions and scope of work, but that falls back on right now on the battalion chief, and that battalion chief would then be spending time sitting at their desk, not out there with their crews. And we're trying to get better continuity and evaluation, especially since we are a very young department. We've had so much transition, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, that we're really trying to make sure that we're getting out there and having our senior officers get out there and have eyes on, and being able to train with them and mentor, coach, and so forth, on top of doing calls and so forth. The other side of things is the policies. it's on me. I'll take ownership. It's my fault. I said I would rewrite one of the policies and put it in the format that we're looking at doing. And I just have not done it yet. I need to make it a priority. It's not burning me today. So the things that are burning me today or this week are the things I'm trying to focus on. But that's the way all of us are. So both the deputy chiefs, administrative director, and myself, even trickling down. So one of the things that we talked about in retreats, how are we going to address those workload issues? So we are looking at adding, and we haven't discussed, what rank or anything like that, but somebody to help us out in support services, somebody to help out in the administrative staffing to really pressure off both and Rachel. And to be able to do some of the things that we want to do and proactively do, like, for example, on the administrative side, we need to do more HR training, for our staff, for our people that are out on the street, and we're just not getting there. So it is a big theme of us to start working towards, now that things have kind of stabilized. I wouldn't say we're completely at our base level of stabilizing after the North Shore contract and us all getting together, but we're getting pretty close there. And for me, I don't ever want to commit to people, to positions, without knowing that is a secure position. That Tyler Byer, that you've got a position for as long as you need it, and it's going to be a worthwhile position, not you sitting playing solitaire all day long or something like that. I joke about that. That's my ongoing joke. And so when I commit to a position, I really want to make sure that we're committing to that position with eyes wide open, that there isn't other system issues or efficiency issues or things like that we can do better at, so that when we get to that point, that's where we're at. So we knowingly, we're going to be in an overload situation over this last year administratively. I'm talking just administratively right now, because of the workloads and all that. We knew we were going to, but I didn't want to commit to another person until I knew really where those needs were. And so that was one of the things we talked about in the retreat. We talked about HR training, administrative help, in that area a lot. Looking at some of our DEI commitments, we have a committee that's up and running, but we need to support that, better, things of that nature. And so there's a mostly done job description on that position. The other one on the support services side, I've asked Matt, Chief Hochstein, to do, you have it's a really, really detailed capital replacement program. I think it was done by RCL. I want to say RCL. I think that might be it. But it's a binder, and it's got even down to like the striping on all the pavement, and when to replace it. And I feel like I did a really good job from a budgeting standpoint, of preparing a 20-year capital replacement program for all equipment, apparatus, etc. But I want that binder, maybe not in quite that much detail, but a binder like that, so that when we we're in the budget process right now, that we can open it up and say 2024, these are the things, and we have a plan that we, that it's financed and budgeted for, and it's, on the scope of work that we can accomplish, in this next year. And we're just not strategic. Chief Hochstein is having to deal with things like we were joking about at the retreat, but it's real, that he's following up and making sure that certain light bulbs are getting replaced. That is not where I need him to be. And so when we look at these things, what can he remove off of his plate? Well, he can remove some of those lower level things, but who does that go to when everybody else is also overloaded down below? So that's our challenge right now, is that we need to be more proactive and strategic. And now that things have kind of gotten to a good place, as far as our base level on workload and all that, that's what we're looking at doing for this next year.
And I was invited to the retreat this year, which was super informative, but I think again and again, some of the messaging that was really clear is that there just needs to be more staff. And you can't just, it's like it has to be strategic placing. It sounds like Chief Holstein needs about 5 people as far as I'm concerned, but I mean, it's just, there's so many things going on. And I think now that it's settled and some of those are becoming more clear, it was surprising to me how short staffed I still feel we are with Shoreline. not necessarily in the firefighter role, but in any admin type leadership role. It just, and getting that succession planning in there so that we know like what's coming next. It just, I feel like we need to, at some point, you can't just hit a pressure relief valve. You really have to get other people in there that can be trained up for some of this stuff.
My goal isn't for us to survive, it's to thrive. You know, I want us to be, you know, proactive in our nature. I want myself and my executive team to be strategic in our thought processes. You know, so that we are thinking about, it's not burning us today, this week, this month, maybe even not this year, but at some point it's going to be a bigger issue, you know, that's going to affect the whole organization if we're not getting out in front of some of these things. And so, and that's where I feel like that I'm kind of failing in that sense of not being as strategic as I want to be, you know, or as I need to be, you know. And so, you know, and I look at other departments and sometimes it's a little frustrating, you know. I think we are a complicated department, but I look at other departments that maybe don't even have the infrastructure we have, and I don't know if they're failing or if they're thriving or if they're, I don't know. But it, you know, because there is a little bit of pushback. It's like, I never want to just add a person to address an issue. I want to make sure that we're getting to the root cause. And I already kind of said that, but I look at other departments and you know, sometimes we have in some areas we have better infrastructure and more people than other departments, you know, similar in size. And then other areas that we're really thin. You know, I'll give you an example of one of them that we've already addressed this year, which is on the EMS training side. You know, we had MSO Mark Peterson, who was running all of our, you know, EMS in the consortium and for Shoreline. And you look at other departments and there's 3 people that are doing, you know, he's one person and there's 3 people doing it in other departments. So it's, so there is some scalability there, but at the same time, I just want to make sure that we're setting up for success, and I don't want to burn out my people, you know, and again, I want to thrive. So.
I'd like to move that, as a board, we move forward with the DBC, through 2024.
Real quick, there's just a couple more questions, and
Sure.
I'm sorry, 'cause I feel like we already spent a lot of time on this, but is this something that also has to get approved by the Shoreline Board?
They've already approved it, but it's really, you know, Commissioner Webster is right in that the contract says that it is one of our goals. It was one of the things that we strategically were talking about. If we could get down to just one operational BC and no DBC, but it does say in the contract too that we'd reevaluate on our way down. But really, this is I don't want to break my promises. I don't want to break my word, and I felt compelled that I needed to come back to the North Shore Board, you know, and make sure that you guys were all comfortable with this plan. It does say we'll reevaluate, and we've reevaluated, and I feel like we've been very, I don't know, disciplined, and you know, very, I don't know, responsible in how we've gone about some of these things. And I just want to continue to make sure that we're doing the right thing and not overcommitting one way or the other. And that's why I'm asking for another year. It does not impact, well, it impacts the Shoreline Board because, well, the overall organization, because it is a cost. But really, I felt like the Shoreline Board was totally fine with this. I discussed this with them a couple meetings ago.
And last question, my only concern is that this DBC will end up back over in Shoreline, and is there any like?
It will not.
So it's gonna be here.
It's gonna be here.
So it would be a benefit to the citizens
Right.
to have, which actually respond to this area.
There is a decrease in the efficiency of having them not paired up face to face with the operational BC, because they tie in and they're talking about staffing, they're talking about all the things that are going on that the operational BC tells the DBC, and the DBC goes and takes care of that, and you know, in Vector Solutions, and then they can talk about training, they can talk about other things that are going on during the day. But it, you know, that loss of efficiency of them not being face to face, it was more important to move them down here and cover from a level of service what's happening here in Kenmore on those more critical calls and so forth. And so they can talk on the phone or Zoom or whatever it takes. That it's not as good, but it's better that way, and to get the other improvements. So we're committed to having them here at 51. Those are good questions.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Actually, you made the motion, sorry.
No, he made the motion.
Oh, I'm
Josh
sorry,
made the
Josh,
motion, yeah,
sorry, my bad.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. It's, I really appreciate it because it's an endorsement of what we're trying to do, both operationally and administratively. So thank you. I know this is a little bit of a leap of faith, so thank you.
Okay, so update on commissioner computers. So I have reached out to Zeb. I did not hear back yet on where we're at with all that. Yes, Amy?
I have an update unless you,
I have not had a chance to talk to him.
I can update you.
Great, okay.
So Zeb was here earlier. He said the computers are all in his office and he's just going through each one to get it set up. So he'll contact you in the next 2 weeks to pick up your new computers.
Great, thank you, Amy. I appreciate
Is
that.
he gonna help us transfer what we have in our old ones, or?
That might be worth reaching out to him. I think right now he's just installing the operating system and email. But yeah, you probably, when you bring in your old one, you could
Jump it,
transfer that.
I also wanted to say welcome to Matt Paxton, who has joined us.
Thank you, and apologize for being late.
No problem. So I wanted to do an update on the Ski-Doo service calls. We got them in 2022, so I was just curious where we were at with those. So I reached out and Chief Foster was able to get me some information. So the first year in 2022, I think we've already gone over this, there were 7 total water rescue responses. 2 were reports of distressed people in the water, but nothing was found after they arrived. 1 was a capsized boat and 2 people were assisted out of the water. 1 was a response to Richmond Beach Saltwater Park for a distress call, but nothing was found. 1 was a response to Echo Lake, and the victim was recovered by the King County Police Department diver. There were also 2 calls in the slough. 1 victim was pulled from the water, and CPR was performed, and another person was assisted out by the police department. So in 2023, there were 4 rescue calls or water rescue calls. 1 was a distress call from Lake Washington, and they were also assisted by the police department. 1 was a distress call, no patient found at Lake Washington. 1 was a capsized kayak at Richmond Beach, and that person self-rescued. And then 1 body recovery on Cottage Lake, and the person was brought to shore by bystanders. So I just wanted to update you guys that they're still operational and we're still effectively using that service.
Question, Chief, the North Shore Sea-Doos are moored down here on Lake Washington, is that correct? Or
Yeah, the two, there's 2 down there at Kenmore Air.
Yeah.
We're reevaluating where we store them, potentially in the future. The biggest issue is trying to get power and security for some of the boxes of equipment that we want to keep there to make it more faster and easier to deploy. So I know that there's a proposal that I've already been briefed on briefly, and about moving them to, I think it's the marina. I'm not sure exactly where, but moving it away from Kenmore Air.
But still in that vicinity.
Yeah, same area.
North
So,
Lake, right?
Yeah,
they're not on trailers being deployed into the slough or being deployed into Cottage Lake or being deployed to other
No.
bodies of water locally.
so except for in the winter, they're on a dry dock, essentially, you know, they kind of drive up onto them and they're in a quick response deployable mode, you know, because this is our biggest risk, you know, is the lake. We also have a Sea-Doo that is stored at 62, which is in the Richmond Beach, you know, area, and can get deployed down to the beach and go that way. However, we need we're getting the process of getting a specialized trailer, as huge tires, so it can travel across the wet, muddy sand potentially, and logs and so forth. As far as on our other lakes, we don't really deploy the Sea-Doos onto the lake, like Echo Lake or well, we could to Echo Lake, but some of the ones that are smaller, our rescue swimmers they all have their own personal bags so that they can deploy. And we have a paddleboard at each of the stations that can deploy. So that's our primary source of rescue on the smaller bodies. That's faster too.
Okay, so any other questions on the ski-doos? Okay. So we're gonna move on to discussion of the board budget for training and retreat. So Amy and I have kind of put our heads together, and I think what we're finding is that we need some policies updated. Some of them were last updated in 2010. And there's not a lot of probably language we need to change. It's just getting it updated. And maybe instead of it being over 3 forms, if we could get it into 1 form, so all of the information is there. So I think we definitely need to budget for more money for training, and we have money for a retreat that we haven't done yet, and I think it would probably be a good idea to try and do that at some point. I know schedules are really tough with you guys, but the budget, or excuse me, the discussion I've been working on is policy 1600. Amy has been working on 1630, which is the commissioner days of service. So in 2024, there is a change. So 2023, and Amy, was it the last previous 5 years? Was $104 per day of service. With a maximum of 96 days of service. So the new number, and that's per RC, I don't remember what the RCW was, do you?
I don't remember the RCW. It's a good thing you're sitting down.
Okay, 14.01. Okay, and that's $157 per day of service, still the same 96 days of service. So we want to pay attention to our budgeting line because that bumps it up to 75,360.
You mean the budget for
All of us.
commissioner compensation?
Yes.
It went up significantly, not surprising considering CPI and what's happened over the last couple of years.
We don't use the 96 days, so we take an average of what we've been doing. Because,
That's what
entirely
it
up
says
to-
in our policies that we have
but
96.
when we do our compensation, we do only what we participate in, So we're not using the full 96 days. I do not believe, although you're budgeting.
From a budgeting standpoint, I'll take direction from you as I prepare your guys' budget. You guys can tell me whatever you want to do. But I would agree, it would be very hard for you guys to use 96 days of service in a year.
Yeah.
Especially when we're doing one meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's 96 days.
Oh, I thought it was total.
Oh, no.
Yeah, each.
So
No, we're not doing that.
You need to understand too,
We're
this
on, what, 3
encompasses
or 4 days a
all,
week?
not
a
just
month,
fire
I mean?
commissioners, every.
Yeah, if that.
Well, with the subcommittees and that.
So I mean, you have 12 commissioner meetings plus a couple specials, plus some committee, if you're going to conferences or if you're going to, some committee works and things like that. You could certainly budget for 96 and you'd be way under budget.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, I can't imagine anybody using 96 days.
So I guess what's our budgeting philosophy? Is it to budget for what's worst case scenario, or is it to budget for kind of realistically where we think we're at?
I would recommend just use a best guess, and if you go over budget, it doesn't really, you're absolutely right. It's for days work that you're working. It's
Right.
not like, you're out of budget, you don't get any more money. We'll just be over budget. It's not the end of
Take
the
a
year.
look at what our
Yeah.
average is for
You
everybody.
could,
Yeah.
you could probably go
And it's probably 4 months per
20,
person
20 per person or something like that, and that's still probably,
for the year, you mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that may be a little, that might, 20,
be a little-
30 would probably be an overkill.
It doesn't hurt.
It depends on how many
It would
conferences
oversight.
and stuff. And
But I'm just saying, we definitely don't use 96 days
Correct.
per year. so,
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just the max that they budget for at this point. So, yeah, I agree. We probably don't need that, although I would like to look at how many hours, because I've done several conferences and those are all days of service, but, I know I'm higher than most. And I'm on also the King County Board of
Oh,
Fire
yeah.
Commissioners, and so that adds into this number as well,
Yeah.
so.
The lights. They're on a timer.
I know that I didn't get through the 1600 policy. Amy, I can't imagine you got through that 1630, did you?
I did.
Oh, my goodness, okay.
Um,
So anything to add with that one?
Well, so for we're in item 4.6, we're just talking about budget for training and a retreat. Did you want to have any more discussion on that? And then the next item on the agenda is 1630.
Okay. No, I think we might want to come back with more conversation if we take averages of hours, and maybe that's something we can ask Dawn to help us with. To give us an idea of how many hours.
I don't think that matters because it's just mainly a budget issue. You know, the chief just needs to know.
Okay.
Well, if you're talking about policy, it's again, that gets to what is, pre-authorized. for the
Pre-authorized,
year. Like if you're authorizing these conferences or these activities or whatever,
Yeah.
then you don't have to get board permission to go do that. But if it's a special, like, ooh, I want to go to this new conference that we didn't even think about, and it's not identified, then that I would recommend.
Put that in. The
Yeah.
policy.
So you can clean up the policy to give you, makes it easier to go to the ones that you guys are pre-authorized and sets the limits and so forth. I believe that our policy, references the, instead of specifying, I would recommend this, specifying the actual like 157, that you reference whatever the state rate is. And then as you don't have to update the policy anymore, as it updates automatically with whatever the day of service rate is. But I can certainly work with you guys if you'd like, or set you up with BOFA to discuss
Okay.
what the policy, what you want to clean up and so forth.
Okay.
So that,
I'm sorry, I'm with Amy here,
We're on like three agenda.
Yeah, we're on 3 agenda.
Yeah.
items at once. So 4.6 is a discussion on budget for training and retreat. I guess, do we need to change our budget from last year? For us attending retreats, trainings, etc.
I don't think we need to change it for the retreat part. My concern was the training, because we are not budgeted for the training that I'm going to. And once again, I'm coming to you guys and asking beforehand, which is also in the policy that we can do that. But I didn't know if anyone wanted to budget for that, or if anyone else was interested in going to any of those.
So I have a question, would be just since you've been primarily taking advantage of it, and I think it's generally beneficial. I mean, I think as a board, I think some board development and education is a beneficial thing so that you do a better job in your role. So I think it certainly would be worth us doing more of that. But I guess since the chief, you're going through a budget process, is there a date which you need us to give a number, or was that like last week? Or
I kind of need some direct, well, and I can make a proposal to you guys and then you guys can modify it as you see fit, but I would suggest maybe working, with the two of you, or just with you on what you want to see for that budget,
Okay.
and then I can start, because we do need to start, getting some traction on what that looks like, so you guys have time to digest.
so I was just thinking, since you've been taking advantage of training the most recently, and maybe you, and I don't know if Matt Paxton has just some recommendations of some ongoing training that we would attend, but maybe you would be able to kind of recommend a number
Okay.
for the chief as a starting point, and obviously it doesn't have to be perfect, but that would at least accomplish getting a new number and giving him
And for example, too, like how many days of service do you want to go for a total?
Well, we're just
I
talking
don't-
training, I think, right now,
Yeah.
training.
Yeah,
Right.
okay, and
well,
then,
I'm talking more about the budget, but yeah, whatever.
and then
whatever you
we're
guys-
also, we haven't had, because of COVID, we didn't do any more training, but we did have the, a retreat a while back that we had specific training for it, and I believe that we should have more, another training with, about, everything that policies that we have. So we should have set up some events where we go as the group and do training like we did before. And I think Matt Paxton probably has some ideas what we should be covering on some of those.
Okay. So Mr. Paxton, if you could email me and you and I can start an email chain of some that you recommend, and then I can look into some of those a little bit, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, now 4.7, discussion of policy 630 commissioner service days.
That's the discussion of like, how many days are we getting compensated for? That's what that means.
Correct.
Yeah, I think the chief's recommendation is great, just have it change the policy, so it just references the state law.
Okay.
If it does already.
Like actually, she's
Percent.
Sure.
So this is the policy that is currently on the website. I did add the header. But so it does reference the RCW 52.14.010, which talks about the maximum limits for days of service. And sorry. No. So what I did was I added just two parts in red to mirror what the shoreline commissioner policy has. One is about, sorry, let me reduce that. There we go. So one is around just acknowledging that actual attendance meetings via Zoom or other virtual meeting programs shall be considered the same as in-person attendance. So just use that language. And then the other addition was around each day of attendance at a board approved seminar, conference, or training shall be considered a service day. And then this is the line that I borrowed from Shoreline, which is the travel time when a separate day of travel is required due to location and scheduling of the event is also considered a service day. Otherwise, I didn't make any changes to this policy. It does talk about that you shall receive compensation for the following activities. And this is attending the meeting, and that counts as a service day. When you've done a significant amount of work, sort of in a subcommittee or working on rewriting a policy, the definition of significant is anything spent more than 2 hours on. And and then attendance at other activities that are pre-approved by the board. Oh, there's more, sorry, so I didn't get it out. But also what is considered service days is when you attend like an open house or pancake breakfast, like in your official capacity, attend meetings, like the other King County. So what is different about ours is compared to Shoreline, and Shoreline actually lists out all the different options, like they mentioned Washington Fire Commissioner Association, King County Fire Commissioner Association, attending the National Association of Emergency and Fire Officials. So they have like more specificity in their policy, but I don't know that that's necessarily needed here, because you have sort of broader buckets that you're attending meetings on which you are representing the district and in your commissioner appointment. So the only changes were about Zoom and including a travel day as a day of service if the travel is needed, like due to location.
Can I make a motion that we accept these changes?
Second.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Amy, for your work on that.
That takes that off the agenda, but we still have to go keep the other one on the agenda for next. week.
Yes, yeah,
And I can just provide a quick update on that policy.
sure.
If that's helpful. So 1,600 is around expenses. And it's a very short policy from the commissioner side, 1,600. And what it does is this policy references two policies in the 2000 series, which are for all employees, firefighters, admin staff. So I think those policies are now obsolete
Probably.
because the firefighters and staff are using shoreline travel policies. So I think the solution is to just rewrite this 1,600 and use all the language from these other 2000 series policies, but just put it all into one for the commissioners. So that would just take a little
Is
bit.
that something you two need to get together and do, or?
Yeah, and that's what I started working on, but then it was a little more than I thought it was gonna be, so.
So maybe at the next meeting that we'll keep this on the.
Yeah, yeah. Cause hopefully it'll be done by then. So I wanted to throw in here a discussion of the contract for services year one review. I wanted to see how everyone felt like it was going. Kind of where you see the board headed, that kind of stuff. So how do you feel like it's going, Eric?
I can step out if you'd like.
No, that's fine.
I'm serious.
I mean,
If you guys want to have it.
You mean just from my standpoint as like a employee?
No, I'm asking as a commissioner. Yeah.
I mean. You know, as a commissioner, I guess I feel like, you know, we're getting getting good reporting and good input on issues that are important to the North Shore Board. So I would say I'm satisfied with the arrangement and the reporting and the services that we're receiving.
Commissioner Webster?
I think we're doing really well. Any issues that come up have been brought before the board and we have time to discuss it. The review is going to be the budget review.
Mhm.
That's the big one. So until we have those numbers in front of us to see where we're at, I gotta kind of hold back on.
Okay.
But otherwise, I think the personnel are, from what I hear, are doing well
Mhm.
and happy. And so, and a lot of the issues of coming together and working out the process is working at this point. And service has been great for our community. So that's where I'm at.
Commissioner Pratt?
Yeah, you know, I have several contacts from the North Shore Fire Department as well as the Shoreline Fire Department, and the merge of the personnel hasn't been without issue, but for a merge of this scale, it's gone remarkably smoothly. And there's two things that firefighters hate, and that's the way things are in any change. And so for the policies to be merging smoothly, for the cultures to be merging smoothly, I think it's a testament to the leadership and making the right choice. And I like that we're on budget at the end of last fiscal year, and according to reports, we're very close to on budget this year, you know, through October, August, September.
September. We're at 0.5 under budget.
So I've been very pleased.
Commissioner Byers?
Yeah, from my view, it's been going great. I've seen a couple of these go differently in my history, and so it's been fantastic so far. So we'll see with the budget how that turns out.
Yeah, I think we've worked through a lot of bumps and bruises. It's been a lot of hard work with the integration committees. But everything I'm hearing is also positive.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I should probably say August, not September.
August, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I still expect, we are at 0.5% under budget. I still expect that we'll probably lose a little bit of that ground, but I'm pretty happy with where we're at, finishing out the year close to or on budget. Or under budget.
So then Amy, I'm not sure where this would come in. I wanted to talk a little bit about Fire Ops 101.
That'd be commissioner reports maybe.
Okay. Okay, so we don't have any board resolutions. Can we do the consent agenda?
Move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Fire chief's report.
I have two things to add, but first, if there was any questions.
Not from me, but did you guys have any questions?
I don't.
Okay.
This is a pretty heartfelt message from Joe Sanford, Fire Chief in Kirkland. It's to me, but I think it's pretty impactful, so I'd like to share it with all of you. If I could read it, it's a little bit, so because I think it goes to a lot of the camaraderie and the partnerships and the brother and sisterhood of the fire service. Matt and the brothers and sisters of Shoreline Fire, it's hard to put into words the heartfelt empathy and outpouring of support the city of Kirkland, its fire department, and its community felt after the announcement of the tragedy taking Bill and Chrissy Hoover. No words can adequately relay the love and compassion so fully shared with us. We couldn't be more humbled. We couldn't be more grateful. Thank you is inadequate, but I offer it on behalf of the city of Kirkland, the Kirkland Fire Department, our community, and the Hoover family. Thank you for your support during this difficult time. It was a gift we cannot repay, one that brings us together, as family, and has meant the world to us with the deepest appreciation. So I just want to share that with you. So
That was very nice.
so and obviously it's a tough time.
Yeah.
So I just want to share that with you guys.
I'd just like to add that it was a huge blessing. I was on duty the day of the service, and we had an East Side unit come and support us, and East Side and Shoreline and Bothell and all the local organizations that stepped in to backfill our stations and run our calls for us, so that we could all be together grieving the Hoovers. So yeah, thank you, Chief.
No problem. I'm glad that we were able to help. So the other thing is actually a little bit of good news I just got right before I came down here tonight. I've been so I have to reapply, and I got reconfirmed for my chief fire officer certificate, my international chief fire officer certification through the Commission of Professional Credentialing, which it's me, but also is a real benefit to the department when we look at WSRB ratings and credit ratings and those kinds of reviews. So I just want to share that with you. It's kind of cool. It was nice to find out that I've been re-credentialed. So
Congratulations.
I don't have to take my little pin off yet.
What do you have to do to get re-credentialed?
It's actually a little bit more involved.
Write a check.
Well, I wish it was that easy. I really do. They reevaluating on all sorts of different aspects of what you do, whether it's professional growth, community, involvement, training that you go to, training that you lead. I mean, there's about 8 different aspects that they evaluate. The packet's actually relatively thick. I have to update my resume and send my resume in, and all that. I also have to get references, so they check, other peers and other, references. They evaluate, like even down to like, what kind of mentoring are you doing, specifically like with individuals and so forth. So things like that. So it's. I wish it was a check. It is a check too. Don't get me wrong. They get you on the check too, but it's a this kind of credentialing, and there's others in the department too that have credentialing that's similar at different levels. It helps us, like I said, with some of the things that we do, and like with the WSRB and the fact that we were able to drop to a 2. that has impact. When we have those kind of IFSAC credentialing or CPSE credentialing, and others, so. I just want to share that with you, so it's good news.
Congratulations.
I wasn't all that worried about it, but at the same time, it is, it's entirely up to a commission. They just reviewed it today. They have a committee that gets together, to review these things, and they don't have to say yes. So
So on to commissioner reports. Did anyone else have anything to report?
We covered mine.
Okay. So I was able to attend the Fire Ops 101. And there were two commissioners from Lake Forest Park. There was a fire commissioner, Kim Fisher from Shoreline. And it was yesterday, and I had an absolute ball. And I think anybody that has a chance to be invited should do it. I know a lot of you are already in the fire service, so it probably wouldn't maybe be as cool to you, but I got to do stuff I would never in my lifetime get to do. So I think Amy, if you do it again, I would love to invite Amy as well. But I think we need to talk to some of the Kenmore commissioners and other Lake Forest Park commissioners.
City council members.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, city council members. Thank you. I don't know her last name, but her first name is Semra. And she signed up for everything. So she got to climb the ladder to is it 4-story?
you climbed to the 5th and then rappelled from the 6th.
Okay. And she actually got to go into a live fire training and work a little bit with the hose and Chief Cowan. She was beside herself, excited about all the fun stuff. So we got to do the tower, we got to do rappelling, I got to do driving the tiller. So it's just something I thought was super cool. It wasn't anything what I was expecting. And so I think it's one of those, which was discussed before we ever did anything on the ground. It's like, are you ever going to get the chance to do this again? Yeah, you might be scared, but it's still kind of cool and maybe get out of your comfort zone a little bit. So Rick, you got to do it if he does it again. It was seriously so fun, and I'd love to get some of the other people in the city councils involved as well. Tracy was also there from Lake Forest.
There were 2 Lake Forest Park council members there, Tracy and Swarma.
Yeah, and he stayed most of the day. He had to go at kind of midpoint, but yeah, just highly encourage anybody. And if it comes up and you're able to do it again, I'd love to do a presentation to the commissioners. Councils, because it just was such a cool thing.
Is this something we do annually?
Well, that's a great question. I'm not sure. It's I've been doing this for my 32nd year. This is the first time I've ever done it. And so it was kind of nice that in some ways that we didn't have a ton of people sign up, because we were able to maybe work out some of the kinks a little bit. It's something that I think that maybe it's every year, or certainly at least every other year. But if there's interest, we could do it every year. It does take some work and all that, but I think it's super beneficial, and not only strengthening the relationships across our partners and all that, but also to show them what we do, so if they ever get questions from their constituents or other council members, even they can say, oh yeah, this is I saw them do this, or I saw them do that, and so forth. So if you're okay, I'll expand a little bit. So I talked a little bit about the organizational structure, the budget, our coverage areas, how we, our stations, all of that, and kind of talked about the department as a whole. And then we had a mega code here. Gabe was the patient. It was kind of fun at first. Yeah. So, and then we moved to a mannequin, because a mega code is when somebody gets really sick and you're doing CPR. And then we did extrication. And then ladder truck, rappelling, demonstrated, ventilation, search and rescue, and the live fire. And then and a couple of fires which was kind of nice to be able to get somebody actually into a fire that hasn't ever seen fire. and she enjoyed it. And she was pretty excited a little bit, in the fire. It wasn't real hot or anything. It was, but it got, there was a little bit of heat, but it was, she had a really good time, so.
Where did the idea come from to run it this year?
It's been in the back of my mind for a very long time. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. It just never really grew into a real thing. Just everything else kind of pushed it down on the priority scale. And then I was having a conversation with Karina File, Kenmore, council member, and I don't know if it was at the Pancake. I don't remember exactly what event it was, because I've run into her a few times, or at the farmer's market or here or whatever. And I was talking with her, and I said, yeah, and we were talking about outreach and education and all that. And I'm like, yeah, I really, and that's when I was like, okay, I really need to do this. So it was really it'd been in the back of my mind for a long time, but the conversation with Karina really kind of cemented it. I'm like, we got to get this over the finish line. I got to do this. I know it's a lot of work, but I'm going to do this. And complete hats off to Andres, John Burrow, Mike McGee, and Brian Ford, and Danielle Magistrali. The training division, consortium, they really helped make this get across the line. And John Burrow, he was a day shift BC, so it was really nice because he didn't have to get distracted with other stuff, and he could relate from a BC standpoint about like what they look at for doing size up and scene awareness and things of that nature. So, and then we had a medic unit that came in to help do the mega code. So it was a lot of different people with a lot and on duty crews that were helping out, not only set up the things, but then also, running some of the, some of the stations and so forth. So yeah, it's a lot of work and all that, but I think there was a lot of value in it. So I'd like to do it every year. I don't know if we'll have an acquired structure every year. I can tell you that I will really try to do it on a weekend, even though it took a lot of people and everybody's on day shift. A lot of them were on day shift, and so it made it easier that way. But it really, I think, to get better involvement, we need to kind of push it onto it like a Saturday, for people that have, the Monday through Friday jobs to be able to partake. So.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, it seems like it's a good way to kind of build some connections, or get support from your electeds who and in particular get some insight from like fire commissioners who don't have that.
Yeah.
But it also makes me think in terms of outreach to our elected officials, our other kind of constituent bodies. I don't know what we have that's on the schedule or anything for just communication with the city councils, but it seems like kind of on the heels of contract for service year one review, et cetera, we might want to have sort of a here's where we are to the Kenmore and Lake Forest Park city councils too.
And by the way, too, I need to get hats off to state council too, because they've been doing a big part of that, a similar thing, but even on a grander scale down in Kennewick.
With state legislature.
They do it, the state council of firefighters. Sorry, they invite people down to the Tri-Cities area, and they do. I've never been to it. I've just heard about it, and they do it on a grand scale. Like they're doing, maybe not hundreds, but a ton of, it takes a lot of people to do that many. So I thought we did a good job of demonstrating and hands-on. So some of it is probably a little too dangerous. Like cutting a hole in a roof, showing the ventilation, the chainsaw work and all that. Don't know if I really want to put, people up on a roof using a chainsaw. But
that's the worst could happen.
Well,
We might have to go rescue somebody.
I still have the releases right here, so I was like,
So crazy.
but so I think some of it's good to do demonstration, and some of it's good to do hands-on. So I'd really, if there's enough interest, and maybe we'll put feelers out next fall or something to see if there's enough interest to do it again next year. But being in the first year, I expect that as people talk about it and all that, and having fun and all that, that it will probably get better involvement next time.
I think that's an opportunity for the community to participate. It's like that, I hear every other day from people that went to pancake breakfast and how
The demonstrations.
and all that, and how they got more of an understanding and really appreciation, the give back having a pancake. So I could see where this would be just as big.
Yeah, cool.
So
Well, sign me up.
Okay,
I'm ready.
okay.
Okay, so legal counsel report.
I don't have anything to report this month.
Okay. So upcoming board agendas. So I think we've kind of covered this. Amy, do you want to go over what you have?
Yes, so the next meeting is a special joint meeting with Shoreline Board of Commissioners. That's on Tuesday, October 24th at Station 61. Beatrice was interested to know who would be there in person, and so I know Commissioner Wolin
I'll be
and
there.
Commissioner Admin, but could I find out from the, if you're in person or on Zoom? She just wants to share this setup.
I will likely be on Zoom.
Okay,
I would be in person.
okay,
I will be in person.
great, thank you. I'll let her know. And that meeting will be a joint meeting to discuss the overall big budget. On our next regular meeting, which is Tuesday, November 7th, it will be a regular meeting plus a public hearing on the meeting, or sorry, on the budget, a public hearing on the budget. And for that, for the regular meeting part, I have updates from subcommittees on Station 54 and the outbuilding at Station 51 and a discussion of policy 1600. Any other items?
Do you expect to have bids back by?
I would think so. I was hoping that I might get them for this meeting, but. So I would expect that we will try to have a complete package, for you guys to decide on at the next meeting.
At the next regular meeting, which is
At the next
November.
sorry, thank you. At the next regular meeting, not the special meeting.
So then after that, just one other special meeting will be on Tuesday, November 21st here at 5 p.m. and that will be to adopt the budget and fire benefit charge.
Okay, anything else anybody wanted to add?
Is there for the hearing and the budget meetings, is there any board prep work that we need to do for those?
I will be trying to get you, so the special meeting, assuming that we get the budget done, I'll shoot it to you guys, to take a look at. So specifically, if there's areas of the budget that you want to look at or ask questions about, it's really, I'm going to introduce and talk about a few of the overall broader scale things. And then it's going to be basically question and answering about, different areas of the budget. When we get to your next normal board meeting, by then I will have a North Shore budget for you to take a look at and review, and hopefully prior to that meeting, be able to again send it out so you guys can discuss and so forth, what that looks like in draft form. It's also the opportunity for the public hearing, to discuss, for you guys to hear any input from the public on, budget and fire benefit charge. So.
And are you able to go tomorrow to the budget meeting in Shoreline?
I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it.
Okay. So,
Okay,
I'm sorry, so I didn't answer your question very well. So as far as preparation for the meetings, just take a look at what I send you for budgets and so forth. You guys don't have to really, it's all on us, to prepare the stuff, but for hopefully give you guys some time to start digesting things before the meeting.
Okay, I just recall procedurally, there's some things that have to be
Yes,
run in a
for the
certain-
public hearing and stuff, yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of, it has to meter out specifically. And I'll help you with that,
thank you.
or Matt can help you with that.
Okay. So then if you can't make it, I will try and get to some of it at least
Okay.
tomorrow,
Yeah,
so,
I have other meetings tomorrow that I can't get out of.
okay. All right, then I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn us unless there's anything else. Okay, meeting adjourned at 6:24.